Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Embrace the Pace, bringing you guys another video today, and this is kind of like part 2 of my NBA 2K15 MyGM discussion. And if you guys didn't see part 1, I just uploaded it. Link will be down below in the description. In that video, I just kind of talked about how MyGM has changed with the implementation of the XP system as opposed to VC. And I also talked about the conversation system as well. So if you guys haven't seen that video, click the link in the description. You guys can go watch that. In this video, I'm going to be going over all these awesome features like the scouting, the player progression, and so on. So I'm not going to talk about this stuff for an extremely long time. I'll try not to, because this is a lot to talk about and I'm really excited about it. So I could go on about it for a long time. So I'm just going to try to keep things slightly brief. And hopefully you guys can stay with me throughout the video. But again, if you don't want to, you guys can just read the article for yourself. I'll make sure to put that link in the description as well. So starting things off, I'm going to talk about SimCast. Now this is another big thing. You guys will probably see the screenshot rolling through the images in the background. That was what I had in my last video too. Those are just screenshots from the article about MyGM. But SimCast is really cool. Now they had this in some previous versions of the game, but this one is a lot better. It's going to give you total control of how you it's going to give you total control of the game while you're simulating, and the best thing about it is that you can jump into the game at any time. So if you're simulating the game and you see at the end that it's a close game in the fourth quarter, or you're down by a lot and you want to try to make a comeback, you can jump right into that game and start playing it from that point. That's going to be really, really good. It'll make it a lot more fun to get through a lot of seasons, and as we know, you can go through a lot of seasons because it allows up to 80 years within MyGM. So that's something I'm really, really happy about. I think SimCast is going to be a great addition, and that's going to be a lot of fun. Now, into the scouting. This is absolutely huge, alright? So, scouting in previous years has been a little bit dull. I think scouting in sports video games is a really cool thing. If it's done right, it can be really, really fun. And I think that they pretty much nailed this if it is as good as it sounds. So, basically, they took information and they took the storylines of the last 20 to 30 years, 20 to 30 draft classes, and they kind of like got the storylines from those drafts. They did research on them, and they basically implemented that into the game. So the draft classes are going to be completely random, but they're going to be built a lot better. They now allow up to 150 players within the draft class, which is really, really good. You'll have some guys that won't get drafted, which is definitely realistic. And the way that they're doing this scouting system is that they have social media now implemented in the MyGM mode. They have a lot of really realistic things, such as the draft combine is returning, so you can work out players that way. You can get information via the social media, and all these little things that you see in real life are actually in the game, such as a guy might be listed in college at 6'3", but if you bring him into he goes to the combine, you measure him out, he might only be like 6'1". So you've got to make sure you scout those guys to get their true height. Because if you don't scout somebody and you see a guy that's 6'5", 220, you're thinking, okay, that's a solid guy right there, 6'5", 220. We'll go ahead and pick him up, and then you'll see he's like 6'3", 210. So it won't be the same. You got to make sure you scout your prospects well. And also, it has an engine in the game where it simulates through an entire college season, so you can look at the stats from players from their college season. This is also going to affect. It's going to have an effect on their statistics as like where they played in college. So if you have somebody playing at Duke or UVA or one of those powerhouse programs in college basketball, their numbers might not be as high as if they were playing for like Lehigh or Weber State or something like that, because they're not playing as good a competition. So you got to take that into consideration. There's also like hidden injury concerns, and there's guys that might be at like the top of their potential when you draft them, and there's guys that might be really raw, but they can just absolutely explode and become superstars, and that's really, really realistic as well. And if you want to make a comparison, you could look at this year's draft. You look at Wiggins, who's really good now, but he has unbelievable potential. I mean, 6'8", he's long, he's got a big wingspan, he's got a super high vert, he's just extremely athletic. So that's a guy that might be able to come in and contribute, but he won't be at his max potential. And then you look at a guy like Jabari Parker, who isn't at his max potential yet, but he's a lot more polished already, and he's going to be able to come in and probably drop 15 to 20 points per game in his first season, just the way that he plays now. And then you have the hidden injury concern, guys like Joel Embiid, Julius Randle. You know, Julius Randle, he was super high on the draft boards, possibly in there in the top 3 if Embiid dropped out of the top 3. And then they found out at the combine that I think he had like a foot injury or something, so he dropped down to around 7. I'm not 100% sure. I think he got drafted 7th to the Lakers, but I'm not 100% positive about the pick. But that's just something that's really realistic that I think is going to add a ton to the game. It's going to add so much to scouting, and it's going to make it extremely fun. And then once you're actually doing the draft, you'll have all these resources like the social media, the big boards, the rankings, all that stuff at your disposal, so you can make educated picks. Guys will be kind of sleepers and they'll shoot up the draft board the last week or something. So it's just a really realistic scouting system that's going to be really fun to play. It's going to add a lot to the offseason. Now, the player progression right here, this is another thing that's really realistic. So guys will have guys will have personalities. Say you have a guy that might be a little bit on the lazy side. So if you're working him out, you're putting him through these drills, because you can set the drills. You can pick how much you want to train guys throughout the season, how much, like what type of workouts you want to send them through, and that'll also have an effect on like their injuries. You might not want to work a guy too hard. Might not want to be having him run sprints constantly, you know, every single day if he's got bad knees, because it might hurt his knees and he'll have a higher risk of injury and stuff like that. But a guy might be a little bit lazy and you might be working him constantly, so he might not be happy with that. He might kind of like turn into a bust and you won't reach his max progression. And then you might have guys that are really hard workers, so you can work them really hard and it's not going to affect anything. It'll probably make them actually progress faster. And then you'll have guys that are super hard workers, you might not work them out that much and it'll kind of like stunt their growth as well. So you got to make sure you monitor all that stuff. You can send guys to physical therapy and stuff if they have like an injury or they're about to get injured. You see this chart in one of these screenshots. I'll try to bring it up now. The chart of the injuries tab on the player cards, which shows the health of all the body parts. That's that injuries 2.0 system put into action right there. So you got to make sure you monitor all that stuff. If a guy has bad knees, you might want to send him to physical therapy. And the higher level of a trainer that you hire, they can advise you on what to do, what type of workouts to go through. They can like say, okay, this guy's right there at the point of being injured. You might want to slow down on the workout. So it's going to make it really important to hire a very good staff as well. And that's something that's just super awesome. And I'm not going to go too in-depth on the whole injury system because I made a super in-depth video on that a while back. And I'm sure you guys can go watch that if you haven't already. So that is basically it. Also in the off season, they have improved computer logic, so the AI isn't going to make super dumb moves. There will obviously be some mistakes, but I'm glad that in my league you will be able to edit the logic and stuff like that. But in MyGM, you'll probably still have some of those situations where it just doesn't really make sense what the AI makes a decision on, but I'm sure that will be much improved over last year. So Carmelo probably won't be taking his talents to Utah very often within MyGM and 2K15. Also, he mentioned in the article that sign-in trades won't be in the game this year, but they are working on that, and it should be making it into 2K16 probably. So that brings me to the end of the MyGM discussion. Another pretty long video here, but hopefully you guys did enjoy it. I think MyGM is going to be a very awesome mode. I really can't wait for it. And the thing that's so exciting about 2K15 and them releasing all this news is that this game just seems so unbelievable and so deep and just so realistic, and they haven't even announced the two most popular modes. Like, some people might not be as interested in my league and MyGM as I am. I mean, I really am a junkie for the realistic experience, so I really do like this stuff a lot. But I'm not even gonna lie, I play my career and my team probably the most, even though I'm really into this stuff. So they haven't even announced that yet, which is crazy to me. We haven't even seen really raw gameplay. It's just, man, it's just going to be a crazy game, and this last month can't go by fast enough. So that brings me to the end of the video. Make sure you guys do drop a like if you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you guys later.